Hoy en día, con todo el mame y todo lo que está pasando en CrossFit, se está intentando de profesionalizar el reporte. Así que una de las cosas más importantes que tienen que haber es alguien que conocí ahorita mientras me encontraba en WFP en Londres, y es un agente. Así como lo vemos en la NBA, la NFL, jugadores de fútbol mexicano, lo importante en esta parte es qué tan bueno es tu agente para poder relacionarte con las marcas. Así que en la entrevista del día de hoy les voy a dejar una entrevista con una persona increíble que tengo tiempo siguiendo porque fue de los primeros agentes que pude ver de CrossFit y que logró una de las campañas publicitarias para un atleta de CrossFit que fue directamente con una marca, que fue la marca de la V y W. Así que los dejo con la entrevista, espero les guste y la disfruten. No olviden darme like, comentar, darle follow y si les gusta pasárselo a algún amigo que le pueda interesar este tipo de información. Así que los dejo aquí con Snorri Baron.
That was a bit more than a year ago, though.
Yeah, I remember that phase, and he was trying to go into games, and the visa was rejected all the time. So before being a coach manager, how was your life with the promotion thing? And you spent a lot of years in the traditional advertising creative direction. So how was your jump into the athlete management?
Yeah, so I've never been a coach. I just sometimes get the coaches band at events to be able to be with the athletes in the back area and everything. Sometimes I'm needed to bring them food or to do anything that I have to do. But yes, my pre-story is I'm a marketing guy. I was working at a creative studio in my native Iceland. Worked for companies like Coca-Cola, Domino's Pizza, IKEA, other brands like that, just in the creative field, creating campaigns, creating stuff, marketing stuff for them, which led to building brands as well from scratch. And that was just very fascinating to me, how you can bring something to life, how you can give character and personality and a tone of voice to a dead thing that is essentially just a brand that people are supposed to believe in and buy the products from. So after doing this for several years, I started thinking, what if I do this with actual people who are alive? What if I use what I know and the skills that I have to help people build something out of themselves? Obviously, those people would have to have some talent and something to offer, but there's a lot of people that have everything but knowing how to do it. So that's where I saw myself fit in. And while I was trying this out, I wasn't only working with athletes, I was working with musicians and politicians, you name it. I was just trying it out alongside my career in advertising. I was just trying to see if this was an avenue that I could go down because I was very interested in it. At the same time, social media is emerging and people are starting to be able to build something out of themselves through their own media, as opposed to trusting that the media will send someone to cover them. So they could just do that themselves. And that played very well into the idea that I had. Me being Icelandic, operating from Iceland, this is around 2014, 2015 that this is happening. And that's just happens to be the time where Iceland is booming on the CrossFit scene. We had Annie Thorisdóttir who paved the way. Then we had Katrin, we had Sara, we had BKG, and loads of others who are lesser known but highly accomplished as well. So those happen to be the people that had the most appetite for what I had to offer. So the first client I ever worked with was Sara Sigmundsdóttir. So I kind of started at the top and have been going downhill ever since. And BKG became the second one, and then came Roman Krenikov, then came just loads of them. And before I knew it, I was just an agent of CrossFit athletes. Wasn't exactly what I had planned on, but I wasn't opposed to it either. CrossFit was it was a very new sport. The business around it had not been molded yet. So there was a room for someone who didn't exactly know what he was doing to just learn by doing. And I just happened to be at the right time there. So any of the mistakes I made then, I was allowed room to learn from them and we grow from them and continue doing it. So here I am, 10 years later? It's going to be 10 years. In September, it will be 10 years since I started actively working as an agent with CrossFit athletes. And now I operate an agency. There's 2 of us who operate it. We have over 40 athletes signed with us and still going strong. We work across more sports than just CrossFit. The wider description is training, which is any sport you predominantly train in a gym setting. So be it weightlifting or high rocks or strongman, powerlifting, any of those sports we are open to. CrossFit is our stronghold, but we've taken up a pretty strong position in high rocks as well. And then we have a few weightlifters alongside that and 1 strong woman. Very important to mention that as well.
Now that you mentioned your relationship with Sara Sigmundsdóttir, in 2016, I think was a massive catalyst when you started the Bakland Management. Mm-hmm. When you look back at that specific era in CrossFit versus today, what is the most significant shift in how elite functional fitness athletes must approach their personal branding to remain commercially viable?
Yeah, it was all so loose and open. Brands were excited about CrossFit, but didn't fully know what it was. So there was a lot of just explorative business happening. The big brands were investing in it to learn how they could capitalize on it. And we did see Nike put the Metcon shoe on, and it became the best-selling training shoe in the world. It's not only identified as a CrossFit shoe, even though it's a CrossFit shoe. It's been sold in millions of pairs to anyone who wants to train. The Reebok Nano, the same. So we've seen some products emerge out of the CrossFit scene that have then transcended CrossFit and become just globally recognized products. I'm struggling to think of more brands, but there are tech brands. There are other brands that started in CrossFit and then just escalated and evolved. So that's what we had back then. There was a lot of openness. There was a lot of excitement because it was new. Right now, it's all much more regimented. You know much better how to work. As a brand, you know how much better what to expect out of investing in CrossFit, how to do it, which athletes to partner up with, what to do with them. So the tire tracks have been made. There's a lot more athletes that are earning a paycheck out of sponsorships and other things in CrossFit now than were back then. Yeah, the top athletes would all get sponsorship contracts back then, but now you can. The athletes in the middle of the pack and the young impressive athletes who are yet to reach any success, so they get backing as well. So the business is a lot bigger, but the business is a lot tougher too right now.
Yeah, I've seen many other management people now in WFP. I think I saw the fittest managers or something. I think they are from Spain. Do you think that your experience with branding it's the same as handling athletes, or it's something different approach that you needed to change?
I think in general, sports managers are either marketing people or lawyers. Some may be both, but I'm definitely on the marketing side. And by coming from that direction, by having worked for such a long time with brands, with big brands, I kind of understand where they are coming from, what they want out of it, why they would invest in an athlete and what they require that athlete to do in return for it to be a successful partnership. I think that understanding has helped me a lot. But then this is people working with people, having patience and having the willingness to really invest time in getting to know the athlete I am working with. That, of course, matters a lot because I can only represent someone as well as I know them. By the end of the day, I'm working for them and I'm trying to get all the knowledge I can about that athlete, what their preferences are, where they're going, what their goals are, etc. To know, okay, this athlete is perfect for this brand here because their DNA matches. That's going to work out really well. Partnering an athlete with a brand where the athlete doesn't even like the products or something, that never has a happy outcome. So I try to put a lot of work into ensuring that when I'm partnering an athlete with a brand, that it is a match and that both parties really want it to happen.
Now, you know how many athletes you have in your roster, like 40, 60?
40. There's two of us, me and my colleague Lucille. We have, I think, 40 or 41 currently that we work with. 25 of them are CrossFit athletes, and the rest is across several other sports.
With so many high-level competitors looking for representation nowadays, when filtering potential clients, what's your non-negotiable metric regarding the psychological profile?
So when I'm looking at which athlete I would like to work with or which athletes I would not like to work with, you mean?
Yeah.
It goes down to something that is hard to describe, but I mean, the word for it is a vibe. It is just, we get along. Do we share any common interests?
Yeah.
Do we enjoy chatting? Because an athlete that I'm working with, especially an athlete that is capable of going very far, is an athlete I am going to communicate a lot with. We're going to travel together. We're going to spend a lot of time together. So we have to vibe. We have to be, there has to be that feeling that, okay, we're not going to have any problems. We can communicate. We can be honest with each other, etc. That's what I look for. Obviously, I evaluate whether I believe this athlete has potential or not. Obviously, that has to be a part of it. Because no matter how good I may be at my job, I cannot bring anything to an athlete that doesn't fulfill the standards that the industry sets.
Yeah. What makes someone a Bakland athlete beyond their placement on a leaderboard?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
What makes someone like an athlete, what makes that they shine brighter than others to be
considered by brands?
Yeah.
This comes back to the marketing question. Is there a brand out there looking for something specific? Do I understand what that specific thing is? And do I see that specific thing in an athlete? And if I do, then I believe I can bring this brand to this athlete and I can make something happen with them. Some athletes will be appealing to everyone because they just have the look, the talent, the personality, the results in competitions, all of that. Some athletes will just have that, and I won't say it's an easy job to be their agent. It doesn't require the same digging. It doesn't require the same effort to bring interest in because the interest is there by default. But then there is the thing about, do I spot something that I think this athlete will be capable of in the future? And can I sell that dream to a brand that wants to invest in that before it happens? And that requires some skills on my behalf. But after doing this for so many years, I've, of course, just assembled experience in, or my own conviction in, okay, I know I can make something happen here. And then I just go and I don't stop until I get it done. It's as simple as that. It may sound like a very glorious job, but I'm just shoveling all day from morning to evening. It's just a grind and a hustle like any other business.
And for example, if we go back to maybe your first years, did you struggle to convince athletes that your vision about making professional? Because at least in CrossFit for a couple of years, maybe like 7-8 years, they would be talking about making a professional sport. And the first thing you need to do is to make those athletes look professional. Because in the past, they were a lot of brands, but they are just giving some support for the top ones, like economically, or they giving merch. Like when you started, it was hard, or it was easy for you to make them believe that you can change that for them? Yeah,
I think I've never looked at this from this perspective. I've never felt like I have been pitching to an athlete and kind of begging them to work with me because I can make all this stuff happen to them. I've never experienced it like that. When the conversation with an athlete starts, there's usually mutual interest in where it can lead. So it is not a forced conversation. It is, we're comparing notes. Mm-hmm. Most of these athletes, especially back in the day, I was probably the first agent that they ever heard from or something. There weren't that many of us in there. And the others in the business, when I came along, their hands were full already. So there was a clear reason for more people to enter the sport and offer services to the athletes at that time. So no, I don't think any of the conversations went like that. It was more, maybe there were moments where I spoke directly to a brand and the brand said, hey, I need 10 athletes. Who do you have? And I didn't have all those 10 athletes. And I would think to myself, okay, these 3 might be a great fit. And then I would reach out to them and check in. Hey, I was speaking with this brand. There might be an opportunity there. Is this something you would want me to pursue for you? And if the answer was yes, then I would go and do that. And if that ended with a partnership, then there was a high probability that that athlete would think, okay, this guy is pretty good. I would like to work with him. So I think it was more like that. It's different right now, and especially in the Hierarch space where things are happening so fast and there are all these new agencies in there. And I don't really have a reputation there like I do in CrossFit. I know most of the coaches and I know so many in the CrossFit space that if an athlete is thinking, who should I have as a manager, I will probably be one of the names that they know of. For sure. In Hierarchs, it's new athletes, it's a new sport, and there's a bunch of opportunities in there. So that was kind of like starting at the bottom again and building up. We've been quite successful on that front as well, but the conversations there, none of those conversations have been that they should know who we are by default. We've always had to introduce ourselves completely in that sense. So that's different.
Okay. You mentioned a lot about hierarchs nowadays, like CrossFit and that sport, it's extreme level of physical and mental toll. So as a manager, how do you balance maximizing an athlete current monetization peak without compromising their long-term health or their competitive career? How do you manage that?
Yeah, this is an ever-long question. This is always just going to be by listening to each athlete, hearing them out, and knowing when they are feeling overwhelmed or when they're at the brink or whatever. It's never worth it to bring in this one extra contract if it means that the athlete is going to crash because of it. Because none of these brands are just handing out money for free. They all want something in return. So when an athlete takes on a sponsorship, they are taking on work as well. They need to deliver some work in return. And they already have a lot on their plate with training 6-7 hours a day. They have to food prep. They need to meet their physiotherapist. They need to do all these things. And then they need to sleep their full 8-9 hours and all of that. There isn't a lot of room in their day to be doing photo shoots or creating content or whatever that is. It's very personalized, though. Some really enjoy the content side, and then it's not a burden on them, while others absolutely hate having to do content. They just want to train somewhere where no one is watching, and they just want to show up and compete and do their best there. So this is very much dependent on each athlete at a time, and it's just in being able to have those conversations honestly. It is, hey, there is an opportunity here. You will have to put this amount of work in. It will pay you this much. So is it worth it for this amount of money to put in that extra work, or is it not? And then it's theirs to make that decision. There's never any pressure for me on either or.
That's nice. and about the market saturation, the branding thing. Nowadays, it's like they renovate the cycles of athletes. They change brands, and they jump a lot. And for example, for me that I see CrossFit, I'm going to mention someone like, for example, with Tia Claire Toomey. I know it's not your girl, but
I know her also. I know her story quite well.
she started with Revela, then with Noble, and then with Tier. And how you manage, like, at least for me, that I see the thing from outside, it's I don't see loyalty. I don't know if that would be the word.
Yeah, but loyalty goes from two sides too. It's not always the athlete jumping around. Sometimes a contract will just run its course, and there's not an extension on offer. And then there may be another brand that is interested, and so there are all kinds of versions available of this, but it's sometimes unfairly seen that the athlete is just jumping from brand to brand. The athlete is trying to make a living because, Tia aside, because she wins every competition she participates in, so prize money is pretty good for her. But for most of the athletes, even though they're in the top line, they have no guarantee of prize payments for performances. They rely on their sponsorship contracts to make a living out of it. And there can be a million things that come up during that time. Some brand partnerships are wonderful. Other brand partnerships are strained from the first day onwards. And it can be there can be so many different versions of this. But yes, of course, there are athletes out there that think to themselves, I'm going to monetize this thing as well as I can, and I will go to the highest bidder no matter what. There are, of course, athletes like that, but I thankfully don't work with many of those, or any of those, for that matter.
How do you pitch a functional fitness athlete to mainstream, like non-endemic brands, like motor companies, tech companies, corporate lifestyle, that usually don't speak the language of CrossFit or functional fitness?
Yeah, I will do video edits that showcase how big this is. I will create presentations that have numerical data in it. How many in the world are doing this sport? How many are attending? How many watched the last live stream? And just create the metrics that demonstrate there is actual value here and your product can actually fit in here. So in 2018, I have to go pretty far. I managed to bring a Volkswagen deal to Sara Sigmundsdóttir, for example, from the Volkswagen Motor Company itself. It was not a dealership locally somewhere where some athletes have had it. It was the actual company itself.
I was looking for that because I remember I saw the commercial and I was Googling, like, I don't remember it was Volvo or Volkswagen, but I was Volkswagen.
And it lasted for 3 or 4 years. And the only reason it ended was change of direction within the company, change of personnel. So it kind of ran its course, unfortunately, but it was a really fun partnership while it lasted. And it's something I'm very proud of because it was non-endemic. But they were looking for strong women. They were looking for strong female representatives for the brand. And Sara wasn't the only one that they went after. So she just happened to fit the criteria that they were looking for. They had some NASCAR drivers, they had some athletes from other sports, and they needed some women to balance it out on their roster. And Sara just perfectly fit the bill. So we managed to do a very nice partnership right there that I'm still to this day very proud of.
That's nice. I was looking for that because I remember I saw it and I was going to ask you about, because I think maybe it's the only athlete that has had a partnership with a motor company that I have seen.
Yeah, I don't know of anyone, and I may be wrong of this. I don't know anyone who did it with with the main headquarters of that company. There are athletes that have had deals from local dealerships.
Yeah.
And they get a car and they maybe get some payments and whatever, but they're just doing that for the dealership, not for the actual company. So
Nice.
I don't know of anyone else, but I may be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope someone else did it as well.
One of the things that you spotted into CrossFit thing that a lot of people saw you was with the case of Ronan Trenikov, the visa, because finally in 2022 he got approved. But before that, we saw him on the Asian Throwdown. He was winning a lot of events in Asia. And every time
in Europe, he won the European regionals in 2018 in Berlin. That's where I discovered him and started working with him soon thereafter. So yeah, it was a crazy storyline. He just couldn't get a visa, and it isn't not just anyone is going to get a visa to the US. Not then, and certainly not now. But it is. We had exhausted literally everything that I could think of, and I cannot take credit for him finally getting to America. It was another team that helped out with that. He needed someone locally in the US who would vouch for him and would kind of like take him on and be his...
like a sponsorship.
Yeah, his sponsor / guardian. I'm struggling to find the word for it, but there was a family that lived in Madison, funnily enough, that was willing to do that. They offered that to him, and by that he finally could get to the US and could get there just in time for the 22 games, where he then went and almost won the damn thing, finishing in second place and proving to the world how good he really was. But yeah, there was a lot of paperwork filed there, and he put himself through so much to get there. Travels to embassies here and there in the world where he was trying to get to file the paperwork and trying to do the things he needed to do. And none of it worked until that family in Madison finally had the key to it. And I believe he's been in the US ever since.
Looking back into that intense period of your career, what did that experience teach you about the actual boundaries of an agent's role when an athlete career is on the line?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it taught me anything. I mean, it was a very human experience. It was very much just a reminder that we're not here just to do a job. It's just Roman deserved this, and he had done everything he possibly could in order for it to happen. And I don't regret a second spent on that, even though I may have burnt a few bridges on the way, because I was quite aggressive in some of the communication that I had on his behalf, because I just had such a strong conviction that this was something he deserved. So, but I won't apologize for any of it, and I won't take any of it back. So it's I'm just proud of it actually happening, that he made it to the US, he made it to the games, he has a good life now, and he deserves all of it. So that's my stand on that.
So going back into the G.O.A.T thing, right now you have Hunter McIntyre.
Yeah, I've been working with Hunter McIntyre for the past 4 years, and he is kind of the reason that I started in that G.O.A.T space. To begin with, I probably would have been way later into there. But as an agency, my colleague Lucille, she's been doing really well in the G.O.A.T space. She manages Joanna Witzig, who sets a world record every time she races right now, and has to be seen as the most likely woman to become the world champion. She finished second last year. Hitte Wiersma, a young athlete, he set a world record. That world record has been broken now, but really, really capable athlete as well. And then the list just goes on. We have, I think, 10 G.O.A.T athletes on the roster right now, and looking forward to the World Championships in June.
Like if you put CrossFit, the functional fitness, and G.O.A.T, do you think that it's harder or easier one of the sports compared to another? Like when I coach and people ask me, like, what do you think about G.O.A.T? And I think CrossFit gonna give them, for example, right now I have an athlete that he's really good at running, but he's terrible with the wall shots and the ski thing. So I told him when I approached him, like, if you start to train CrossFit, you already have the fundamentals of the running. You're really good at running. But with CrossFit, I think I will put you more things to work with, so you can move it to the hierarchs, and you will be a really good athlete. So do you think it's better to do? Well, I don't want to say that it's better CrossFit, but do you think that CrossFit will give them a lot of foundation to hierarchs athletes?
I'm a CrossFit guy, so you will never get me to say anything that casts shade on CrossFit. But these things are just so different. In CrossFit is a methodology. It's a training system. It's a lifestyle. It is where you go to ensure that you maximize your ability to stay fit, to be strong enough to tackle anything that life throws your way. That's what CrossFit is. Hierarchs is a race. Hierarchs could be one of the events in a CrossFit competition. Or a version of hierarchs could be one of the events in a CrossFit competition. But what the hierarchs athletes who just do hierarchs and nothing but hierarchs, and are trying to be the best in the world in that, it is crazy. And no one can throw shade at someone who is running a hierarchs race close to 50 minutes. We've seen the CrossFit people do it. I mean, Ricky Garrard did it just around the hour mark. James Sprague did a hierarchs on an hour and 3 minutes. Alex Ronkovich did it in 51 minutes. Hunter has done it in 52 minutes. So there is a difference there. Yes, if Ricky and James and some of the other guys who are great runners and will finish high on the running events at the CrossFit Games, if they really prioritize hierarchs, yes, they will do well. But they will have to lose so much body mass. They will have to completely turn their life around to be able to hang. And there's nothing that guarantees that they will even get as good as the best ones in hierarchs, even then. Because hierarchs are just different body types than the CrossFitters. Yeah. It is for different people. But if we look from above, everyone who's doing this just wants to train. And hierarchs, in my opinion, is one of the best things that has happened to CrossFit. And I have several proof points for that, because so many of the people that got drawn to hierarchs were only out there running before. They weren't really doing any functional training. And they got excited about hierarchs because it's predominantly running, but hey, you're not going to get very far if you can't push that sled or do those farmer's carries or use the power output you have on the machines. And where do they go? Most of them go into a CrossFit gym to try that stuff out. And all of a sudden, after being there for a month or two, the heavy weights in there are not intimidating anymore. Those gymnastics moves the people are doing in a corner, they all of a sudden look attainable. Who knows? Some of them might start doing CrossFit after completing their first hierarchs. And I've seen just genuine proof of this. BKG, who I've been working with for close to 10 years now, he recently purchased CrossFit Reykjavik, which is quite a notable gym. Annie Thorsdottir was one of the owners of that before. He's a very visible figure there, and they've been doing an excellent job. And one of the things that has really grown that gym is that they took up a hierarchs affiliation as well. But the people that came there originally to train for a hierarchs, many of them are doing CrossFit right now. So that's my case in point. It introduced people that would never have done CrossFit otherwise or considered it. It introduced it to them on notes that made them want to do it. And I believe this story is repeating itself in many other places in the world. And I believe it can just continue copying itself for the reason that people just want to be fit. People just want to train. And if you have all these options, you can do an intermediate CrossFit competition one weekend, you can go on a hike the weekend after, you can do a hierarchs then two months later or whatever. That's the lifestyle you want, because you just want to be in a gym training. And CrossFit facilitates that and enables that. And within a CrossFit gym, you can train for all of the above. And I think that's what's happening. And I think that is one of the reasons I'm sensing increased positivity towards CrossFit. now, finally.
And for example, then now that you mentioned like G.O.A.T is a good thing for CrossFit. For example, I believe that CrossFit was a good thing for the weightlifting because I see that the sport
100%.
was not on the spotlight, and then CrossFit with all the movements put the spotlight again. Like Klokov went to coaching movements into CrossFit gyms. The guy from Ukraine, I can say his name, Torotti.
Mm-hmm. I know.
So there's a lot of weightlifters now that they teach weightlifting in CrossFit gyms, and now G.O.A.T is putting the spotlight into CrossFit because they've seen that there's a lot of things in CrossFit that can improve their abilities in G.O.A.T.
Yeah.
Sorry. So from a commercial perspective and managing point, how does handling a pure CrossFit athlete for you differ from handling a dominant G.O.A.T athlete? Are the sponsors looking different metrics?
Yeah. There are different brands in there in some instances. And the major tool of each trade being shoes, it's different shoes. It's running shoes for the G.O.A.T space and it's training shoes for CrossFit. Actually, for CrossFit, you need trainers, runners, and lifters, and some barefoot stuff for deadlifts too, if we're going to go to the details. But the brands may vary a little bit. G.O.A.T is in the space I was describing CrossFit was in 2015, 16, and 17, where brands were still trying to understand how to best utilize the sport for marketing. So there have been some interesting, very, very interesting and exciting deals for me on the G.O.A.T side because brands are trying to figure it out. In CrossFit, it's much more regimented. They know much more what they want, how they want the athlete to perform, and all of that. It's so much more structured in the CrossFit space right now than in the G.O.A.T space.
Unlike the legacy sports like NFL or professional football players, Olympic weightlifters, functional fitness is still maturing in terms of athlete rights and standardized contracts. Revenue sharing, if you could fundamentally change one structure in how major fitness requires, what would be the best advice you will give to brands?
That's a complicated question. So, I mean, you mentioned revenue share. There isn't a lot of that still in these sports. It is all more or less, here is a base fee, here are performance bonuses, here's maybe a travel stipend to help you cover competition expenses or something. And in return, you have to do 3 or 4 activations a year. You need to do an X amount of posts. And of course, the main thing, you enable the brand the rights to utilize the name and likeness of the athlete for the contract period so that they can publish materials, campaigns, etc. with that athlete. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. Across most of the major brands when it comes to athletes. If we look at the mainstream sports, it's a different audience, right? There aren't really all that many watching CrossFit or G.O.A.T that are not doing it themselves or deeply interested in it. While you get pretty much anyone interested in watching a football game or a basketball game or whatever, the audience of the athletes there, yes, of course, it's people who like basketball and maybe play basketball, but it's also just all sports fans. Therefore, you can have an athlete who is in one of those sports, and you can have them market a burger or something that the athlete never eats that stuff. It's some athlete marketing McDonald's or Burger King. It's highly unlikely that they ever eat there, but their audience does.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you wouldn't be able to do this with a CrossFit athlete or a G.O.A.T athlete because the audience doesn't want that product anyways. They want to know which shoes they're using, what clothes they're in, what accessories, is it Garmin or Amazfit or whatever else, what headphones do they use when they go out running, what supplements are they using for premium performance? And then they need a little bit of education from these athletes as well okay, you use this, but how do you use this? And why do you use this? And if the athlete does a good job at communicating this in an organic manner through their own content, then they're very valuable to the brands that are paying them to do that.
One of the brands that I see that they fit really good with athletes and all that CrossFit and Hyrox thing is G.O.A.T. They have a lot of athletes right now. And that's what you mentioned, like the I think they naturally enter into the CrossFit community, and the athletes they naturally speak why they prefer that brand, and it's something that really matches good.
And they've also picked athletes that match their attitude. You know, Daniel Brandon matches Rad perfectly. It's the same DNA.
I don't like her that much, Rad.
Well, she's a killer athlete and she's very popular. So regardless of whether you like her or not, there's a lot of people out there that like her, and a lot of them buy the shoes she's promoting.
A lot. Like, for example, the shoes that they've been releasing they're under her name. It's like 5 minutes or less, they are sold out, and that's amazing. Where do you see the branding thing of the athlete in 5 years? Like, do you think that individual athletes become entirely independent media houses, or do you think it will be better to do like super teams, regional training hubs, sponsorship ecosystems? Where do you see that?
I think it's an individual sport, so the individual is always going to be the predominant factor. So we're going to see some athletes rise on their own accord, and the audience they build and the audience they cater to is going to determine a lot what their worth is. But I feel like there is a genuine opportunity for a strong media company to come into training as a whole, to cover those sports, to provide consistent coverage, storytelling, and all of that. I don't feel we have that right now. We've got factions. We've got like podcasters that have a good audience and have a strong voice. Then we have some fan scenes or like fan-driven media. But we don't have that one place where you just get all the news, where there's just this coverage on a daily basis, what's going on in the sport. If there's a competition somewhere, you can just go in there and the leaderboards are all updated and you get the best news immediately. This requires some investment, of course, but I believe something like this could really benefit the sport as a whole. And I'm just talking training here because I think CrossFit, Hyrox, Ethics, weightlifting, strongman, it can all thrive in the same media. It can all be under the same roof.
For example, have you seen any of the Latin American athletes that you consider maybe to work with?
I mean, I never worked with, but I mean, he was definitely an athlete that would have been on my radar if he didn't already have an agent at the time. But G is kind of a dream athlete for an agent to work with because he's such a showman and he has that ability to win events and entertain everyone and all of that. So I would say G is the one that pops to mind. I was working with Lari Cunha from Brazil at the time she got popped for illegal substances, and I did help her through the process where she cleared her name. She got her sentence reduced, and she did clear her name and prove her case. But she is hardly a practicing athlete anymore. But if that shit show hadn't happened, I believe she could have done really well as well. Who else? I don't really know who the predominant Latin American athletes are right now. I have to be honest.
Okay. Like, for example,
I would obviously be open to it. And I mean, I work on a global basis, and whenever an athlete catches my eye, it's not the first thing I do is to check, where are they based? They live so far away. Can't work with them. It's not like that. I mean, We have athletes in Australia and New Zealand. We have plenty in North America, all across Europe. So Latin America would very well be an option to us.
I live in Mexico right now, and there's a lot of athletes, but there's no support from brands. And it's something that I've been talking with some of my friends, for example, that when I started this project with Gordolift, I'm not an athlete, but I have a name for mention. And it's really hard when you approach to brands that they don't see you competing or something. Plus, the only thing they offer most of the time, it's, for example, they gave me a pair of knee support thing, and that's it. And they put a lot of things on there, like, I want you to make a lot of Insta stories, a lot of posts, and you need to wear them all the time. And it's like, hey, you are just giving me one pair of knee support. And so how would you...
So the expectations are skewed. They expect a lot in return for just some free products. Yeah.
So what would you think it would be the best approach? And I know you don't know, maybe you don't know the market here, but what would be the best approach to work with athletes, for example, in Mexico? But because I can mention you some, and there's if you put us into the leaderboard worldwide, Mexico is not one of those countries that comes with a lot of athletes, but we have good ones that they, for example, maybe a couple of years you can remember Brenda Castro is one of the biggest name we had, Alan Garcia. So right now we have...
And you have this Roldan guy, right? What's his name? Roldan Gold something?
Roldan Goldbaum.
Yeah, he's Mexican, right?
Yeah, he lives in US, I think. I saw him. I was his judge on the deadlift and salt bike workout on the WFP. Okay. And I spoke a little bit with him, but it's just to mention we have really small amount of athletes that they go into professionalism, because I do the open, but I'm not that good. A lot of people do the open, but at the end, when we go to semifinals or quarterfinals, the fact that they put us against the US,
you were in that semifinal.
Yeah, so
you don't go to Copa Sur. You have to do North America.
Yeah, like Crown Syndicate, Granite Games in the past. So it's really hard to maybe put someone into that spotlight to be considered. So would you...
Really, I think this only takes one athlete to break the mold. It only takes that one athlete that can go further to start the movement and make everyone else believe. So that's what I saw here in Iceland. I mean, what business do we, a nation of 300,000 people, have to have half of the podium at the 2015 CrossFit Games? It's because of Annie. It's because Annie proved to everyone else that they could, and it just shifted the mindset. It just made them all push harder because she showed the way. So I feel like there's no doubt that somewhere in Mexico there is an athlete capable of great things. But that athlete obviously will need to have a very strong mindset and will also need the backing for that to happen. But it is when one shows that it is possible, then the rest will follow, and then the brands will follow. The media will start covering it. This is what I've seen in so many other places, where it is someone just leads the way and all of a sudden the whole scene follows. I'm not aware of how big the scene in Mexico is. How big is the CrossFit community? It might be huge. I just have no idea. It's been a while since I was in Mexico, and I had no interest in CrossFit when I was there. I was there for very different reasons. So it's I've never really looked into it, but I can imagine that it's hard to get for athletes that maybe don't have... I think I muted myself, sorry.
Yeah.
It can be very hard to get this started with athletes that don't have a very big audience and that don't have a lot of support around them. it can be very hard to start the movement from there.
It's hard because most of the athletes that I mentioned, for example, it's like they go into US instead of staying in Mexico because they see maybe it's the fact that the competition mindset in US is tougher than in Mexico, and they take us out of the comfort zone. But even when they are there, the brands, they don't see them because they see Mexico like, it's not my market. But I hope one day...
The performances will dictate this. It is at some point the athlete performs so well that the global brands will take notice. And then geography is no longer a factor. It is just, we want this particular athlete. But the athlete needs to get there. But this is the same with athletes from all over. It is tough from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 5. It is a tad less tough from 5 to 10 if we're just talking about a scale from 0 to 10 in how difficult it is. It's going to be tough, and it is. Yeah. It's a brutal sport. It requires every facet of your life being taken care of. You need your sleep, you need your food, you need to train like crazy, you need to treat your body in a way so that you don't get injured and all that. It takes a lot of sacrifices to become a top-level CrossFit athlete. It takes a lot. But I've seen a fair few from very many different countries, from very many different backgrounds to be able to do this. So there's nothing that says you can't do this for Mexico.
Snorri, our philosophy here in Gordolift is that while athletes are the visible machines, the people behind the scenes are the true architects. For example, the coaching staff and you, for just to mention, if you had to define the single most underappreciated variable that separates great athlete from a truly historic athlete, sustainable sports cycle, what would it be?
Underappreciated variable. What it is that made the good athlete great, you mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an individual sport by the end of the day. The athlete needs to have the confidence that they can do this themselves. Anyone in their team is just a tool that they use to get there. But they need to have the confidence in themselves, because no one's going to help you once you're out there on the field performing. That's all on you. But you have to have a strong team around you so that you can check all the boxes and know that you have prepared well enough to do your best. But the word underappreciated, I don't know what to attribute really to that specifically. It's there's a lot that happens in the dark that no one knows about. And every single training session that the athlete puts in, most of those sessions aren't very glorious. And they need to prioritize that above everything. And they deny themselves to go to birthdays and parties, and they will, their group of friends will not fully understand why they're never available anymore. And there's a lot of sacrifices that they have to put in their lives just to be able to keep up with the rest of the athletes that they're competing with, because everyone is doing that.
The same.
Everyone puts the priority on, I have this goal and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to reach it. And that just comes with sacrifices. That comes with less family time, less time with friends, less of this and less of that. And that all of that is a sacrifice. And I guess all of that is underappreciated or misunderstood until you watch them on top of that podium and you understand, this is why they did all this. This is why this is all worth it right now. But for everyone that stands on top of the podium, there are thousands who tried and who probably put just the same work in, but just couldn't get there, because there can only be one that wins in the end.
True. Just to finish, we met on WFP. What do you think about CrossFit and WFP? Because there's a lot of gossip behind. Like if it's something they are challenged. As I already been a volunteer for CrossFit events, like license events, and now with the WFP, and I see a lot of difference. And when, for example, I was talking with my friends because they asked me, there's a lot of people in the license events, CrossFit license events, and in WFP, I see a lot of empty spaces.
Yeah.
Why do you think is that? Because at the end, the athletes are the same. We see the same athletes competing in the CrossFit Games, the Open, regionals, blah, blah, blah. And in the WFP, we have the same athletes. Maybe one on another is, for example, Laura Horvath, and now she doesn't go into CrossFit Games. But before that, we always had the same roster. Like, why do you think is this thing happening?
I think just WFP is very new, and it takes time to build. It takes time to build the trust. It takes time to build your audience. It takes time to build all of this. And the Denmark event, the WFP in Denmark, that was not empty at all. That was an incredible event. And I was kind of surprised that there weren't more people in London, I must admit, because there's a strong fitness scene in the UK. But I just think that comes down to marketing. They had to change the location last minute. And I think they just didn't. There's a lot of people I know in the UK who just simply did not know about the event. Some only showed up on the Saturday because someone told them, hey, this is happening, you should come down. And some of them came down then. And thankfully, it wasn't completely empty. I mean, there were hundreds of people there, but there were empty seats for sure. And that didn't necessarily need to be empty. I think when they keep on going, because everything else is so well done by them. It is the look of the venue, the experience of walking through the vendor village, the food court, the actual competition floor has looked great in every single one of the WFPs. I've gone to all of them. So I know I know quite well what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. And it's just about stamina now. Just keep on trucking, keep on building, and see where it heads. At the same time, we have CrossFit, which has the hierarchy and it has the heritage, and it has the now 20-year-old history of the CrossFit Games. It will be the 20-year anniversary now in San Jose. That's hard for anyone to compete with.
Yeah.
And the athletes generally just want to compete. So in a perfect world, they'll be able to do both.
Yeah.
Most of these athletes will just hope to be able to do both. That these two things can find some happy medium where both those seasons can coexist. Whether that is reasonable or not, or whether that is realistic, we can only stand to find out. But me as an agent and a representative of the athletes, I'm positive to all of this. I want all of this to flourish and grow. So, and I think while the WFP is new, and yes, they may have made some mistakes, but they've gotten a lot of things right too. Yeah. And I do feel like the athlete experience from both Copenhagen and then from London, it was excellent. And there was a lot of excellent things that happened there that will make the athletes who are participating very positive towards the future of this thing. And people, I think we've seen just some kind of a slump in many places, and people just being less interested in going to CrossFit events. And that can only be brought back by creating a consistent experience and making it so that they want to go back. Me personally, I started doing CrossFit in 2013. I discovered the sport then. I went to a beginner's course, and then for the next year, I went 4 times a week at lunchtime, and my workplace was next door to it. 4 times a week at lunchtime, I got in the best shape I've ever been in, far better than where I'm at right now. But I understand the magic of CrossFit because of this, because of the people that I met every single time I went there who were suffering the same as me, and were getting better at the same level as I was getting better. So even though I don't regularly go to CrossFit classes anymore, I will always look at myself as, hey, I'm a CrossFit guy and I love this sport. And the more I see these other things, be it High Rocks or Athletics or whatever, pop up, I realize how much I love CrossFit and how much I love the experience of going for a weekend and watching all these events unfold. Watching how someone takes the lead on day one, but then has one bad event, and then someone else goes past them. All the drama around that. I obviously know so many of the people in there, and I represent some of the athletes on the floor, so I'm emotionally very invested in it. But even if I weren't, I would love to go and do this and experience it. And I think long beyond my days as an agent, if I ever stop doing that, I will be showing up at CrossFit competitions just to enjoy watching.
Yeah, now that you mentioned like I told my friend that maybe the fact that they changed so quick the venue after what happened in Mexico. For me as a Mexican, when they released the news of the WFP Stop 1 in Mexico City, I was really happy because we don't have a lot of events in Mexico that they have the background or the support from foreigner investors. Mm-hmm. So when they cancel it because of what happened with the Mencho thing, mm-hmm. As a Mexican, for me, if you ask me, we are used to it. Yeah, it's like we have the Chapo, we have a lot of things, and
of course,
this that happened for us was like, and I remember I was commenting on the post, like there's a lot of time still, so you can maybe reconsider. No one answered, but it would be, I think, if the event happened in Mexico, mm-hmm. if in someday happens, you will see how big is the CrossFit thing, because mm-hmm. we don't see the sport only as famous athletes or something. We see this as a big party. Like if you compare it, would be like a Wodapalooza, mm-hmm. because we don't have a lot of things like that.
And do you think Mexicans would have showed up in numbers to the WFP in Mexico City? Every seat would have had a bucket. Yeah. I read in between the lines because I of course I speak with the WFP people. They were very excited about Mexico. They were very excited about the venue, the area in Mexico City where they were going to have this. And I'm fairly sure that they will revisit their plans for Mexico City at some point, and that there will be an event there. That's my assumption. No one has told me. I'm just fairly sure that they will, because as I heard from them, everything had been laid out. Everything had been planned. They had it all figured out. So to do it again at some other time, it's just to press the button to press play again.
No, if you have the chance, like maybe when they come to Mexico to one of the competitions we have, you mm-hmm. will see like people is warm, spectators are incredible. They athletes have a lot of fans. So mm-hmm. Maybe I'm one of the only guy that I'm not really a fan of any athlete. Honestly, I'm really fan of coaches.
That's too bad.
I see them as people, and I know, for example, the last guy that I really liked was Calipa, mm-hmm. and that's really long.
That's a long time ago.
and that's it, because a lot of my friends were fronting fans and Matt Fraser fans, but mm-hmm. I always, since I started CrossFit, I knew I was not good because I don't have any background in sports. And when I started with L1 and coaching and that type of things, for example, I'm a big fan of brute strength.
Mm-hmm. I can tell by your T-shirt.
Yeah. I met Matt, and I'm one of those guys that always messaging Matt or Coach L. Mm-hmm. So at least for me, it was really fun to talk with the coaches in the WFP. Mm-hmm. And if you transfer that into Mexico, you will see like, you as a manager of athletes, you will see that you will be fully, like all your athletes will be full of events to show up. because Mexico has a lot of love to share with the athlete, because we don't see them really often.
Yeah,
we need to travel to
you
US.
don't have them there every day, so you show up when you know they're there.
Yeah, yeah. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to show up when it's going to be in Mexico. That's for sure.
That will be amazing, and I hope I can see you there. And just to close this, how do you think it's going to be for yourself eventually? Are you going to start to delegate and be a little bit away of traveling with your athletes, or you want to establish that you're always going to be by their side?
Yeah, I will just be hands-on and doing the job exactly the way I'm doing it right now until I can't do it anymore. Until either I burn all the bridges and no one wants to work with me anymore, or whether I'm just too old to be able to. But as things stand, I'm fully healthy. I've got very good and strong relationship with the athletes that I'm working with, and I'm enjoying this job immensely. So long may that continue. I don't think I'm anywhere near my expiration date yet, but I will keep on doing it the way I do. I already brought one person on with me, my counterpart Lucille, who has her set of athletes and is doing things her way. She's over in Australia right now. She was at the Torian and is now doing work with some of the athletes over there. So it's been very good to be able to have a counterpart who can take care of some of the things, and then I can take care of some of the things. But I find it doubtful that we will be branching out much more than that. It's having just fewer athletes and being able to service them completely. That's how we want to do this, rather than to try to go to a different size and lose control over that.
Thank you, Snorri, for the time. I really appreciate you accepting this, and it was a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine, my friend.
Hopefully I see you again, and thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah. See you in Mexico City.
See you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Y amigos, eso fue el evento, el episodio con Snorri. Me puede divertir mucho. Es un poquito muy diferente a lo que se viene viendo cuando hemos hablado con coaches. De verdad aprecio muchísimo el tiempo con él y hemos aprendido muchísimo de la parte de el manage de atletas profesionales de CrossFit. Así que espero les haya gustado el episodio y nos vemos en un próximo episodio, porque de verdad quiero que esto vaya creciendo y les agradezco a todos los que ven los episodios y que nos vemos. Adiós.